Badlands from 1973 was Terrence Malick's very first film. Terrence Malick later went on 5 years later to do Days of Heaven, took a 20-year hiatus, came back to do The Thin Red Line, and has been pretty sporadic ever since. With Terrence Malick, his films often feature nature and just lots of poetic images to help augment the characters and really help propel the storyline. And even though Badlands, I wouldn't consider it to be his best film, it still is something that is worth seeing. It is a really good and notable first chapter in the career of a great director. So it stars Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek in what is essentially an early Bonnie and Clyde. So they live down in the South. Martin Sheen is like in his late 20s or something like that, and Sissy Spacek is a teenager. She lives with her father. They kind of have a bit of a rocky relationship. And Martin Sheen playing a very handsome young man. Sissy Spacek is drawn in towards him, and they go on a cross-country killing spree. So, even though they kind of do fall in love with one another, them being on the lam, it does put a bit of a strain on their relationship, because she doesn't like seeing him kill so many innocent people. And just seeing death constantly, especially for a girl in her late teens, it's just not nice to see. And while the movie is progressing, as I said, it has the signature Terrence Malick things like animals and nature and just sunlight and shadows, all of which really do help with the story. So I guess you could say that this road trip adventure tragedy film is a little bit of an avant-garde film. It's a really common way for avant-garde films to happen. And, when the movie came out in 1973, it was 6 years after Arthur Penn did Bonnie and Clyde, which was one of the big films in film history that really shook cinema to its very core with its extreme violence. Well, even though Bonnie and Clyde is similar, because Badlands is similar to Bonnie and Clyde, but Bonnie and Clyde, they want to steal things, and if they have to kill anybody to get their way, then so be it. But in Badlands, it's more of killing just for the sake of it. And because Bonnie and Clyde was so excessive with everything, Badlands takes more of a tragic approach to it. The mayhem and the visceral energy that Bonnie and Clyde has, we don't really get a whole lot of extreme sadness and depressive thinking after a really big murder or a shootout. But we get all that stuff in Badlands. So that's what I really liked about Badlands is, it was the new wave of American cinema, and instead of really pushing forward with just violence, Terrence Malick tries to show violence as not nearly as much as some action films from back then, but he tries to emphasize how tragic a death can be. And frankly, that's really what I think separates Badlands from other films around that era. Other films about Lovers on the Lamb. Of course, the directing, all that stuff is good. The whole road trip aspect and some of the underlying themes, all that stuff is good too. But yeah, the way that it's able to separate itself from other Lovers on the Lamb films is what I personally connected most with. And also the fact that Terrence Malick was able to start his career on a pretty high note. It's great. I mean, unlike say Martin Scorsese or Brian De Palma or Steven Spielberg from roughly that time, who remembers though their very first films, right? People remember their breakout films, but who really remembers their very, very first ones? With Terrence Malick, people do remember Badlands. They may not remember that it's Terrence Malick, but they remember that it's Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek. So bravo to Terrence Malick for that. And even though Badlands is really not as good as Days of Heaven or The Thin Red Line or The Tree of Life, I still really like this one. I'll give Badlands from 1973 3 stars out of 4.